Read to you some words. Love is who you are. You are not defined by your gift or your deeds. Love is not about defending a point of view. Even if I am prepared to give away everything I have and die a martyr's death, love does not have to prove itself by acts of supreme devotion or even self-sacrifice. Love is large in being passionate about life and relentlessly patient in bearing the offenses and injuries of others with kindness. Love is completely content and strives for nothing. Love has no desire to make others feel inferior or has no need to sing its own praises. Love is predictable and does not behave out of character. Love is not ambitious. Love is not spiteful and gets no mileage out of another's mistakes. Love sees no joy in injustice. Love's delight is in everything that truth celebrates. Love is a fortress where everyone feels protected rather than exposed. Love's persuasion is persistent. Love believes. Love never loses hope, and it always remains constant in contradiction. Love never loses its altitude. You might say, well, those are great words. I wish I would have written those, but those were written by the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 13. He had an awareness of something. Love isn't something... I know that there's always different ways you can say things, and it kind of bends it and puts different perspectives on it. But I'm becoming more and more convinced, like Paul, that love is who we are rather than something we put on. It's not something that... It's almost as if when we learn to love the way God loves us, we're not attaining to something, we're actually going home. We're actually returning to a place of origin, if you get my meaning. Something that we have forgotten. We have forgotten who we really are. We've forgotten that we were made by someone, and that one loves us. And when we get a glimpse of that love, we move into this place that you hear often described in different ways, but if I could re-describe it to you, we move into a place of being saved from the lie that we're not loved. And then all the implications of living now in a place of awareness of how valuable I must be. That I would be loved by the one who made me, regardless of whether or not I'm aware of his love or not. My awareness of his love does not change the fact or the reality that he loves me. I just live disconnected from that reality. John 15. 9 through 11. These are extra notes that I put at the bottom there in that schedule. Tony says this. Just as the Father has loved me. Jesus is saying this. Yeah. Jesus, so amazing, fully divine, fully human, but living as a human being in right relationship to God, now shows us what life could look like when we are in agreement with who God says we are. Just as the Father has loved me, Jesus says, now he says, I've loved you. So now abide in my love. In other words, live right there. Don't move. Stop. Stay right there. Stay. Stay. Say, stay with me. Stay. Stay. Abide. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. Now understand that sometimes this can be read that once you do what I say, now I know you'll love me. Which puts love in a performance category, doesn't it? In other words, I'm really not going to be love until I do certain things. Kind of backward engineering is kind of like living from earth to heaven, rather than living from heaven to earth. Rather than saying, wait a minute, I am love, and because I am love, guess what flows out of me? Of course, I am going to follow the advice of the one who loves me. Another way to say commandments would be principles. Advice. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. I would say that it's a passive response. It's a fruit that my following the commandments of God, the principles of God, are a byproduct of my love. It doesn't get me to love. And it goes on. He says, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. You think about that. Have you ever thought that Jesus would have to keep the Father's rules in order for the Father to love him? No, we wouldn't think that. But yet somehow we have thought that about ourselves. But Jesus says this, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my life, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. So these things I've spoken to you, so that my joy may be in you. And all the bubblies that are going on in here, all the fizzes that are going on in here, all this bubbling up joy may be in you, so that your joy may be made full. And he goes on in John 13:34, and he says this, now a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as the Father has loved me, now I have loved you. Now guess what? It's your turn to put your love on, to keep your love on. So we have this text that we've been working through, and we're coming to the period, or maybe at least a semicolon. We're coming to a breaking point here where we're going to say, okay, thank you very much, Danny. Now we're going to put this stuff into practice. We're going to be doing this stuff. And that was Danny on the video there that you saw, and Danny has written this book. If you don't have it yet, you need to get it. And if you're a guest today, or if this is your first time here, we want to give one to you, okay? In fact, I got one right here. Come and see me afterwards. I'd love to give it to you. But some of what we're talking about actually comes right from that. So what I don't want you to think is that all these ideas are my ideas and I'm brilliant. I do like you to think I'm brilliant, but not because I'm quoting somebody else, right? And so, but some of the quotes that I'm going to be giving you today are from Danny, and some of these principles are from Danny, because he's just done such a great job at putting words to the context here, and I want to give him honor. All right? But this whole idea, last week we ended our session together with this idea of this, that understanding one another's needs, if you remember the statement, understanding one another's needs is the holy grail of communication. Finding out what it is that you need and meeting that need changes everything. Because when we come alongside of each other and we come to meet each other's needs, what we're revealing is how deeply you're valued and how deeply you're loved. Just like Jesus, just like the Father, just as the Father loved Jesus and Jesus loved us, now we are going to love others. And then the Scripture tells us that the world will even know how much we love God by how much we love each other. In fact of the matter, it's been said and stated that, and you can agree or don't agree, it's up to you. You're free to take a position here. But could it be, let me just maybe put it in a different way as a consideration, could it be that how we love each other really identifies or really goes upstream, it really kind of tells the story of how we really love God? I mean, we can say that we love God, but if we don't love people, Scripture even says that we actually are liars. We're deceived. If we say we love God but don't love each other, we are living in some form of deception. So what if we went the other way? Show me how we love each other, and I will get a glimpse on how you love God. When we talk about the word need, please, I want to if I could give you a little, let me just build the framework there, because I don't want you to go the wrong way with the word need, because oftentimes it can be mishandled. When I say the word need, what I am not saying is that my identity is based in my need. My identity comes from my God, the one who made me, the one I choose to worship. And we all know, right, that God is not his name, right? We've gone there before. It's just a title, right? And so we have a picture of God through the Hebrew story, and the Hebrews created a couple of names, Yahweh, Jehovah, and then Jesus actually becomes this marker in history that Jesus even said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. The Father and I are one. And so there's this place of reference that we go to the life of Jesus and say, okay, Jesus, you show us who God is. And so the Christian faith, the Christian belief system holds Jesus as that pinnacle, as that filter upon which we see all of God. Judaism uses a different quantifiers to view God. That uses, the law, and uses the writings of Moses and that kind of thing, and they view God differently. But Jesus, for the Christian, becomes that filter upon which we get our clearest picture of God through. And so, when we talk about needs, what I'm talking about is ultimately, if I need something from you, then there is a place where you have some control over me. Because now I'm modifying my life in order to get you to meet my need. Are you with me? And so when I'm talking about needs, all my needs, my identity, my fabric of existence takes place in my relationship with God. So that I'm not dependent upon you for my life. I'm not dependent upon you for my well-being. Are you with me? So I just want to quantify needs. But here's how needs actually work. It doesn't mean that I might not have some needs, but I don't go to you for my identity in them. I don't go to you so that if you meet my need, now I'm a better person, or somehow I've changed internally, right? But when we express our needs to one another, what we're actually doing is we're showing our vulnerability to one another, we're showing our transparency to one another, and then we can interact with one another. And we can show each other, we can feel the love of God from each other. So what happens is you actually become an arm or a leg or an ear or whatever body part. You become a demonstration of the love of God to me. I'm not looking to you to meet my needs so that now my identity shifts. Because if you don't meet my needs, somehow I'm less. But in the expression of needs to one another, it's an intimate thing. In the expression of needs to one another, we get to display, to put God on display to one another. We actually, if you could go here with me, we actually take on, demonstrate God in us to each other. Okay? So one of the hardest things to do is to express authentic need to one another. Because when we express need to one another, it makes us look weak. Oh, I don't need you. No, I'm okay. You know? Oh, yeah. No, I'm okay. No, really. No, I just want... No, really, I'm okay. When inside you're going, oh, that would really feel good. It really would feel good. Let me tell you, when I was in seminary, many, everybody say many years ago, one of the things that took place there is we found ourselves in a place of need. We went to seminary without debt, and we felt that the Lord, we felt that journey, that part of our journey with the Lord, that we were supposed to go there without debt. And while we were there, we didn't have enough money for rent, and we also didn't know if we had enough money for food. And we actually did everything like anti what I would suggest people to do today. But anyway, we were there in this place of need, and we chose in that journey, in that 3-year segment of time. This was back 91 through 94. Now I've really dated myself. We chose to go through seminary as quickly as we could, rather than kind of working our way through seminary, you know, like paying the bills as we got there. So we went debt-free, but then we encumbered debt while we were there, if that makes sense. And while we were there, someone was paying our rent. It was an anonymous person. I didn't really know who it was. I think I know who it was, but I don't know for sure who it was. There was a day when what was happening is that the money for our rent would come through the local church that we had come out of back in Temperance, Michigan. And so Temperance, Michigan, the church there would send us a check every month for our rent. And when I asked them, hey, well, who's this coming from? We'd love to thank them. They said, no, it's an anonymous donor. It's an anonymous donor. They don't want you to know who they are. I said, okay, that's no problem. And so we were thankful for this need being met. How many of you have ever had someone pay your bill for you? Come on, it feels good, right? I mean, you guys right there, the testimony this morning was great. And so there was a day, though, that rent was coming due and the check didn't arrive. It didn't come. And I'm going, oh, man, what's going on? And then we were late on the rent. I'm going, man, what's going on? But then I didn't know what to do, because we had gotten accustomed to this coming, and we didn't know it was going to stop, and we were not prepared for it. I remember my mom calling me one day, and she was saying, hey, what's going on? You know how parents do. They're checking up on us, you know. And I remember having the conversation. I said, well, man, things are really going good, but, man, we're really nervous about something. What are you nervous about? I'm really nervous because normally we get this rent check from the church, and it didn't come. And she says, it didn't come? And I said, yeah, it didn't come. And man, we're really kind of nervous about that, blah, 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 you know. So we get done with our conversation. The next day we had FedEx a check from the church. And I don't know who cared for our need. I don't know. But I think I have a good clue. Parents are amazing on how they care for their children. If that was. But they are. I remember also that we didn't have resource to get food. And so we would have to go to the food bank that was in town. And I remember how it made me feel. It made me feel weak. It made me feel like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this, you know. I want to be the person that donates to the food bank. I don't want to be the person that's withdrawing from the food bank. But I remember many times us going to the food bank. I remember sharing meals together as seminary students. You know, Friday night being the big night because we could get the $5 pizza. And everyone would share, you know, the Jell-O and the macaroni and cheese and the hot dogs as a staple for us. I just remember the needs. But I also remember how it made me feel, and it really pushed on something inside of me that I think needed to be pushed on. And although even today I don't like to express need, friends, I want to just move into a little bit today on the idea of how to express need and the importance of it. And so Danny writes this. He says this, in relationship, telepathy is not part of the relational wholeness process. If we are going to have healthy relationships with one another, telepathy is not a component that's going to help that. In fact, the probability is we probably lack telepathy, and so if you don't tell me what you need, I most likely will not know what you need. Now, you may expect me to know because of all the signs that you're giving to me. You know, the body language and the slamming of the doors and the abrupt ends the sentences and the attitudes that we begin to carry. But it's important for us to communicate to each other what our needs are. So Danny says this. Danny writes this. He says, the expectation that you should actually know what someone else is thinking or feeling, actually comes from powerlessness and fear. I'm like, what? I don't understand. So he says it comes from dreaming that everything will turn out wonderfully without any communication on our effort. He goes on to say this, the reason we can't get our needs met without expressing them is that we were designed to have our needs met through relational exchange. It's part of our design, Danny suggests. He says, I'm responsible to know what is going on inside of me, and I communicate it to you. I do not expect you to know it, nor will I allow you to assume that you know it. And I will not make assumptions about what is going on inside of you. So here's the guiding rule. Ready for this? You can write this down. Here it goes. Guiding rule is this. It's my job to tell you about me. This is rocket science. This is really tough. It's my job to tell you about me, and it's your job to tell me about you. It's not my job to try to pull out of you the truth or give me the information, although we can help one another. But it's your job to give me the information that you want me to know about you. And it's my job for me to give you the information that I want you to know about me. I know it sounds weird, but there's this place, and it actually, I think I'm agreeing with Danny. It comes from a place of powerlessness. It comes from a place of brokenness that I somehow am putting demands on you that you need to know this about me, even though I'm not telling you. Where does that come from? Other than a place like that? Well, if you loved me enough, you would know. You ever hear that from somebody? If you loved me enough. Let me give to you a tool that will help you. And now, there's two things I want to talk about. I want to remind you of this tool that we gave to you last week. We have some more out there, and I just want to review this with you. And then there's also another tool, which is an iMessage tool that I want to make sure that you guys are going to get to. So here's this core value and guidelines of healthy communication. Here it says this: our first goal in communication or in conversation is to understand one another. We've learned that, right? Because understanding and communication is the goal. My goal in communication is to understand you. Now, communication, I'm going to have to communicate to you if I want to have a relationship with you. Right? Relationship is going to require communication. And so now in this communication, of course, the goal is to understand. I don't know, last week, I thought last week's teaching was amazing. I mean, I thought it was great. And I thought, man, home run. And guess what? That afternoon I go home, and guess what I did? Totally biffed it. Totally biffed it. My wife had to remind me that understanding was the goal. Didn't you say this afternoon, this morning, that understand? I went, oh yeah, thank you. I realign my thinking, realign my posture, and I moved into a place of understanding. So this is a work in progress for us, isn't it? This is a work in progress for us. So let me be the first to confess, I'm still getting it. And I'm still biffing it. But I'm still getting it. I'm going to get it. And so here we say the first goal of conversation is to understand one another. My thoughts and my feelings and my needs are valuable and important, and so are yours. See, when we're not in a healthy relationship, when there's dysfunction in the relationship, maybe aggressive communication or passive-aggressive communication, there's this place where your needs, my needs are more important than your needs, and so I'm trying to convince you of my needs all the time, and I'm trying to convince you of what's going on inside of me, and I'm never listening to you. But from the powerful place, powerfulness in the relationship means that what's going on inside of you is important, and what's going on inside of me is important. And so we create space for both to exist. Which means, if there is space for both to exist, there's space for two people to talk. Two people. That means when two people are talking, guess what? You're not talking at the same time, because you're probably not going to hear well. You're giving space for each other to talk, and you're being quiet when the other person's talking. Right? Now, here's a little clue. If you feel like you need to talk when someone else is talking, it's probably because you're threatened, or you feel threatened. You might not be literally threatened, but you feel it. So, know that about yourself on both ends. If you're the one that starts to pipe up when someone else is talking, stop yourself and say, wait a minute, I'm only speaking because I'm threatened by something. I'm trying to defend myself. I'm trying to get them to whatever. Wait, I'll just pause. I'm not going to go there right now. I'll just let them finish what they need to say. And then if you're the one talking and you hear someone begin to interrupt you, pause. Think about why they just did that. I wonder if they feel threatened by what you're saying. Do they feel safe right now with what you're saying? Could you say it a different way? Two people in the conversation, both powerful, both responsible for what's coming out of them. Make sense? Brilliant stuff. Say brilliant. Oh, thank you. I didn't say that to tell me I'm brilliant, right? Just wanted you guys to make sure that but it's a brilliant thought. So here, check this out. I did not anticipate in the disrespectful conversations when my thoughts and feelings and needs are devalued in a conversation. I don't anticipate that. But I'll stop the conversation if I begin to feel it. See, one of the powerful things in the way of communicating is, I heard this story said, and I wish I would have been able to say it. There was a teacher outside of Chicago, and he told the story of after one of the teachings that he did on a Sunday morning. People come up and say, hey, that was a great message, Pastor, that was really good, all that kind of stuff. Or people come up and start complaining, one or the other, and you get them in emails and that kind of stuff too. But in this situation, the guy came up and he just started laying into the pastor, laying into him about how he disagreed with this. And actually, the pastor actually said, can we just pause this conversation right now, because I'm not feeling honored by you. So we need to start this conversation over if we're going to have this conversation. Because I need to feel that you're for me first. I'm like, oh man, that was awesome. I wish I could do that, kind of thing. And so, but think about that. Think about the idea of this. We never anticipate. What if we made a declaration that I'm just not going to participate in a disrespectful conversation? I wonder how conversations would become respectful in order for people to engage us. Because you're able to say, you know what? Hey, I value what you have to say, but I'm unable to hear it right now because of the way you're saying this. We need to shift here. See? So when my thoughts and my feelings and my needs are devalued in a conversation, I, as a person inside the conversation, I have the capacity to say, hey, I'm going to stop this conversation right here because I'm having a hard time hearing you because of what is coming through here. It seems like you're upset. Maybe we need to talk about that or something like that. But until respect is restored in the conversation, I'm going to choose not to participate. Now, what I sense right now is some of you going, man, that really sounds good, but I don't know if I can ever do that. Man, that would be risky to do that. But really, if the goal is understanding, if that's the goal of the conversation, then I have to be in a place of being able to hear you. And so I am honoring you by stopping the conversation until I can get into a place I can hear. Right? I want to hear what's on your heart. I want to hear it. But if it's coming at me, in preparation for this bike trip, I watched Wild Hogs last week. And we're going to ride. We're just going to ride, you know. And there's a character in there that the wife in the relationship is in her conversation demeans the husband and just kind of goes at him rather than including him. And there's this conversation that goes on, and at the very end he actually addresses it. He says, "Hey, you're speaking at me." And she's going, "I don't speak at you." And she's going all the, and he goes, "What you doing right now? That's what you're doing right now. You're speaking at me. You're not including me in this conversation." So anyway, that hit me when I just started saying that. So if you want to get an example of how not to do that, you can go watch that movie. There's a lot of great scenes in that movie. But here's the idea. We want two people in the conversation. We want two people. And in order to have two people, powerful people, you have to provide space for two powerful people to exist. Which means that one of you will be quiet when the other is speaking, and then it'll swap, and you'll give other opportunity for the others. And the goal is understanding. And so ask the question in your conversations, am I understanding you? Can I repeat to you what I think you just said to me so that you know that I heard what you said and I'm going to value what you said? Doesn't mean you have to agree with what they said. Valuing and agreeing are two different things. I can value them and agree. I can value them and I can value where they're at in their posture and position and what they're feeling. Sometimes when we're talking to one another, we don't even know why we're feeling what we're feeling yet. Hey, I live with a feeler, all right? I mean, talk to me about being an expert at this, right? I mean, there are times when Kelly doesn't even know why she's feeling what she's feeling. But of course, me, I'm a thinker, and I'm going to fix it, and so I'm trying to fix her feelings, but she doesn't even know why she's feeling, and all of a sudden I'm now imposing my fix-it on her feelings. She's going, I don't even know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. You ever been there, guys, gals? Okay, okay. So here's this place where we need to communicate our true feelings and needs. And when we do, there's something that happens in the relationship. Intimacy begins to grow. Intimacy begins to grow because when I know that I can express to you my what's going on inside of me and I'm not being rejected or devalued by you, all of a sudden I'm bringing more. And I'm bringing more. And intimacy begins to grow. And we begin to develop relationships into levels we've never experienced before. See, it's my job on this take home. It's my job to tell you what is going on inside of me. And it's your job to tell me what's going on inside of you. We do not have powers of telepathy or the right to assume we know one another's motives or their thoughts or feelings or needs. We just don't have the right to do that. We're actually dishonoring the other when we assume that. The best way to communicate my feelings and my needs to you is to use the I messages and clear specific statements that show you what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. And so on these I messages, this is what an I message could look like. I feel scared when, and then you fill in the blank. I'm not qualifying what the event is that created that fear in me. I'm just telling you how I feel in the event. This is my wife. This is Kelly. We're driving down the road. I made the example last week. We're driving down the road. We're going the speed limit. We're going 65 on the I-70, but the roads are slushy. And she asks me to please slow down. And I'm going the speed limit. I feel threatened because I don't feel that she trusts my driving. And that's not what she said at all. What she said is, I feel scared. She's not challenging my manhood. She's not challenging my my capacity to conquer all things and to, What she's saying is, Brian, I'm scared. Now, if I want more of her heart, if I want to help her to feel safe, what's my job? What do? Right? I adjust my speed. Not because she's threatening my value. Not because of that at all. In fact, she'll say, I feel safe with you. But you know what? If I don't adjust to her need, what am I communicating to her? I'm somehow more important? What? What is that? Right? Why don't we adjust to one another's needs? Now you understand that this can get sour. Because in either case, when the other person recognizes, all I have to tell them is what I'm needing, and now they're going to adjust, and now I put demands on that, so now I'm using it as a tool to get what I want, what's that about? That's brokenness stuff there too, right? That doesn't create intimacy. So we're looking for deep intimate relationships. We're looking for these relationships that go farther. And so in order for that to happen, we got to get real with what's going on in here. I don't have to say, I don't understand. I don't have to tell you, I feel scared because this, all these 15 things that I'm even aware of. I just need to communicate to you that I feel scared. And when I can do that, I feel scared, then you have my heart, I'm exposed to you. What are you going to do? And when you honor that, when you honor this and you move and you protect my heart, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you more. I'm going to tell you more. I'm going to tell you more. I'm going to tell you more. So the I messages are that. I messages, I feel scared or I feel scared when this happens, or when you just did this. It's not an accusation. It's not, when you did this, it's not that way. But when this event just happened, I'm telling you what that made me feel like. And now what are you going to do with that? It's up to you. But it is important to me, it's important to you that we feel safe. It's important to us that we feel protected. It's important, right? It's important. It's important to each other that I hear what you're feeling and what you're sensing. If I want to have a clear picture of what's going on inside of you, it's important. If you're on the receiving end of an I message, you have some decisions to make. You just have some decisions to make. Are you going to honor the vulnerability or the transparency that was just expressed? Are you going to honor that? Your capacity to honor that will indicate whether that person can give you more or not. Intimacy is not one-sided, you guys. Intimacy is two-sided. There are two people in an intimate relationship. Both people feel safe for intimacy to grow. Are you going to honor the vulnerability offered when the person gives that need to you or that feeling to you? Are you going to figure out how to meet that need? Or are you going to push it off, not take any responsibility there? It's up to you. You're very free to do anything you want to do in a relationship. Are you going to be powerful enough to adjust yourself in order to move towards the person and protect your connection and trust? Or are you going to lord up? Are you going to raise up? Or are you going to go into a self-protection place because you felt like someone didn't value you, or somehow someone accused you? Or, you know what? Got some work to do there. See, it's scary and it's humbling to allow someone else's needs to influence your heart. It's a scary thing. It's a humbling thing. That someone else's need might change your agenda. Especially when you like all your ducks in a row. You had everything already set, and now this person's needs are shooting one of your ducks. I'm speaking from experience. My daughter often says to me, Daddy, did one of your ducks die? Brilliant, she knows me, right? See, one of your needs in the relationship is to be able to meet the other person's needs. I think we've been made to meet each other's needs. And when that's taken away from us because we're not expressing needs to one another, actually limiting the ceiling of our intimacy when we won't express our needs to one another. What we're actually saying is, maybe not even intentionally, but what actually is going on is we're saying, this is the ceiling, this is as far as we will go in this relationship. See, I think we're made to meet each other's needs and then to receive the others meeting our needs. I think we're made for that. I think Jesus is talking about, just as the Father has loved me and I have loved you, now you love others, and I think it's supposed to go it's just supposed to be this pool of, I know I work this way and that puts a linear thing to it, but what if we modify that and got rid of the line? If we're just all in the pool together. But you need to know that you are a powerful, trustworthy person who can choose to grow, you can choose to change, you can choose to adjust, and do what you need to do to love them well. If you're going to choose to be a person that keeps your love on. How you love will example to others how God looks to you. The iMessage tool is not you trying to convince somebody of anything. The iMessage tool is only to be used for them to see inside of you. Not for you to manipulate or control. It's not to be used out of fear. It's to be used out of, here, I want to show you this inside of me. Because if you do try to control with it, it will be felt in the relationship and defenses will go up. So, if you're learning how to use the iMessage tool and defenses go up on the other person, pause. What I just said didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish because I just noticed you got defensive. Now you might not. This is all going inside of you. You're not doing this because you don't want the other person to take defense even more. Like something's wrong with them because they went on the defensive. But inside of you, you're doing this mental evaluation. Wait a minute, they just went on the defensive. I just realized that whether whatever I said was right or wrong, get rid of the right or wrong thing. I need to say it differently so that they can receive it because the goal is for them to understand. And so I need to adjust the way I just said that because I just noticed I'm not going to get very far if they're on the defensive. So I need to adjust the way I said it. Oftentimes, it's not the what we say that's the problem, it's the how we say it, right? It's the way. So what happens is when I just speak to them truthfully about this is what I'm feeling, now it really just leaves the response totally up to them. They can respond any way they desire. And even how they respond isn't going to adjust who you are, because you're not demanding anything from them, because they can choose not to meet your need. So you're not demanding that they meet your need, because your needs ultimately are going to be met in your relationship with your Father. But when they meet your need, intimacy grows in the relationship. Intimacy grows this way, linearly, around us. Not linearly, horizontally, right? Remember this. This will be a good clue that your iMessage is in the right posture. Your iMessage is most often based in a feeling, not a thought. Okay? I feel this. I'm not thinking of this. I feel this. So just think about it. You know you get to the right iMessage about what's going on inside of you when you can get to your feeling about it. Okay? And get out of your thinking, get out of your head. Now, it's tough for us people who are thinkers because everything that we feel, it seems like it just goes right into our rationale maker up here, right? Yeah. Her feelings tell you about me. Feelings are not me assuming things about you. Feelings are telling you about me. I feel hurt. I feel scared. I feel rejected. When this happened, I felt sad. Not, when this happened, I thought you were a jerk. I thought you were a jerk. I feel sad. Now, you might have been a jerk, but I'm not telling you are. Okay? So you state your feelings. It doesn't require an explanation because you might not have them figured out yet. So you're not demanding an explanation when they're telling you their feelings. Now you might be able to journey there over time, but just start by expressing your feelings to one another. It's important to handle these feelings carefully, because oftentimes there's hurt and fear really close to them. Okay? And so people are protective. People are going to try to be guarding their hearts there. So, and remember, in every conversation, the heart's at stake. Someone's heart's at stake in every conversation. Connection is at stake. See, if I'm not going to understand you, then I'm not going to have connection with you. If I'm not going to have connection with you, my relationship's at stake with you. You see how it goes? So it's so important, so important. So protecting our connection is more important than you realize. We us all agree the time